This week's show is brought to you by Pretty Easy Podcasts, helping podcasters get their shows off the ground, up and running, and sounding great. Professional podcast production at extremely affordable rates. Do yourself a favor if you're thinking about doing a podcast, but you don't really have a whole lot of time to manage the editing, the posting of the show, and making it sound as good as possible. Go to prettyeasypodcast.com because they'll help you do it at a great rate, and it doesn't matter what your show's about. It could be a sports show, a food show, business. It could be a show about extremely rare birds. Doesn't matter. Go to prettyeasypodcast.com and they'll help you get your show off the ground, up and running, and sounding great today. Whatever your passion is, Pretty Easy Podcast is ready to help you enjoy it even more. Everybody has a podcast these days, right? Get in on the fun and go to prettyeasypodcast.com today, or just email them to get started at prettyeasypodcasts@gmail.com. Pretty Easy Podcast, making podcasting, pretty easy.
This is the future. This is not the past.
The new XFL will kick off in 2020.
If you smell what the XFL is cooking.
It's still football, but it's professional football reimagined.
This is our moment, our story to tell. This is history begun.
This is the XFL!
Welcome, football fans. This is the week of May 19th, 2019. This is the road to 2020, and this is the XFL show. I'm Alan.
I'm Jake.
I'm Vince.
And I'm Bryant.
New coaches, new presidents, new personnel positions. It was a nice week for the XFL. This is episode 69, and here we are. If we sound a little bit different in terms of the audio this week, it's because we are in a round table at Bryant's wedding this weekend. So congratulations to you, Bryant, and even more importantly, congratulations to us because we got a big week to talk about.
I believe this is the first time all four of us have been in the same room doing this.
Hey, don't pull the curtain back that far, Jake. Yes, we're all in the same room for once, and it's going to be fun because there's a lot to get into this week. Bryant's wedding, of course, is the main event for us, but for all of you, the news that came out this week, I mean, pick one. The last head coach, general manager, a very interesting hire in as an offensive coordinator coming into Dallas. A very interesting position created in Dallas for a player personnel person. And we get dates for the summer showcases we've heard about and details. I mean, I don't know. For me, I can't wait to talk about these summer showcases because I plan on being at it.
Alan, we mentioned it on This Is Not the XFL Show exclusively on our Patreon. Doesn't it seem like the TV deal was 6 months ago?
It does.
Right?
I forget talking about it almost because we've been, off air talking about all the big news that came out this week. Really a lot of fun to get into. Of course, if you want to get involved on the show, you could call in 724-5654-XFL. Leave us a message after you listen. We love to get your comments that way. And, of course, social media is a great way to do it as well. At XFL Show on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Last week, we did discuss the TV deal, believe it or not. We talked about that. We talked a lot about the LA head coaching hire in Winston Moss, which does also feel like it was ages ago. But we got great reaction. A lot of people entertained by Winston Moss. A lot of people talking about, that name doesn't really excite me. Vince, you didn't get to react to Winston Moss, so what did you think of the hire?
I love the press conference. He certainly won me over there. The guy's got a passion for the game. He's coached at a number of different levels. I love the hire.
It sounds like he wants to be back on the field instead of on the sideline.
Yes.
We haven't ruled out player coaches in this league.
I'm ruling him out. We also got good reaction to the TV deal conversation. Of course, I'd say the majority of people were super impressed by it. And Jim tweeted in at us and had an interesting take on it. He loves the networks that the league's going to be on. But we were talking about the AAF in comparison, and he said to say that the AAF wasn't on the right channels. He doesn't understand it all, Bryant. Can you clarify for Jim why we said that about the AAF?
I might even have to defer to Jake. Jake, how do you feel about the AAF having to be streamed from your telephone?
They had the right outlets whenever they were on CBS week 1, and were they ever on CBS other than week 1?
They weren't planned.
CBS Prime.
They were on CBS Sports, I believe.
Yeah,
and they weren't going to be making their way back to network television until the championship game. That never happened.
So, yeah, that's why we said, other than CBS, there's still people out there that do not get the NFL Network. I was one of them. If you got to log on to your computer to watch the game, that's another reason why we mentioned that.
And maybe it's maybe it's shame on me for not paying attention, but it seemed like it was a different channel every week,
it seemed like that. It wasn't, but it seemed like that. And that's the problem.
You got NFL Network, you had Turner, you had Bleacher Report Live, you had CBS Sports. I mean, what the XFL did.
It's consistent.
It was head and shoulders above. They had a nice graphic. It had every single week, every single station printed on it. I already know. I've already set my DVR. Really, for all these games for next year. So I'm going to have them all recorded as I watch them live.
And the other important piece that we brought up last week was exposure, right? How these games for the XFL are going to be exposed on ESPN, on ABC, on Fox. When you walk into a bar, those channels are on. Nobody has CBS on. Nobody has TNT. Nobody wants to watch Shawshank Redemption for the 100th time, right? That's why TNT's not on. You're going to have ESPN on. You're going to have Fox Sports.
And there's going to be advertisement for it, commercials. I didn't see one commercial. I didn't see one ad in a newspaper or a magazine. I didn't see a banner pop up on a web page. I didn't see anything for the AAF telling me where to watch these games, what the matchups were. The XFL already head and shoulders above.
Yeah, to clarify for listener Jim a little bit more, the AAF being on TV was nice, but being on the right TV channels, I mean, just because these are TV channels doesn't make it a great TV deal. The AAF had a lot left to be desired. Like Vince said, we know every week, every single time already.
It's especially not good when you're not getting paid for it.
Yes.
Well, no, and then you're right. And just to finish on this, the AAF was an infomercial. These networks for the XFL, Fox and the Disney networks, are invested. They are paying for this. They're going to want to expose this league just like the XFL.
And that's a good subject for debate there. Would you take being on a lesser channel if they were going to pay you a lot of money?
I'd take the partnership. I'd take this partnership the way it is, because you're going to get the effort from ESPN and from Fox in terms of marketing and get blowing it up, and eventually that's going to come. The rights deals.
And how long is the contract for this?
Multiple years.
Multiple years is the only thing we know.
So we'll say it's 3 years, because I think that's what all the stadium leases are. I remember hearing
that
something
2 to
about
3,
that.
4 range. Yeah.
So okay, if this thing takes off, which we all hope it does. And I think we feel all pretty confident about that. In a few years, then you're going to be able to negotiate some rights deals.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the mind of Vince McMahon is really overpowering everything.
The money will be there right now. Vince McMahon has that covered. Get your exposure.
Yes.
Get yourself some good partnerships. Yeah. I'm telling you, the best part of this, I eat at the same sushi bar like twice a week. They always have ESPN. A sushi bar has ESPN on. I know that I can go there and watch an XFL game.
Yeah, we're not piling on you there, Jim. We just wanted to clarify a little bit further our conversation from last week. We appreciate you reaching out to us on Twitter there at XFL Show. If anybody ever wants to get their questions in or respond to any topics on any particular show, you are welcome to. We always appreciate it. Hey, Brainiacs, it's Long Island Iced Tea here this week on Brainbuster Radio. It is a wedding called Wired, and we're all going to be there for the holy matrimony.
You got that right, Long Island. Vin Man here, Jumpin' Jacob J is here, Milk Calzones is here, and of course a man called Wired is here. Los Angeles, California, the wedding of the summer. We cannot wait to get it all kicked off this week on Brainbuster Radio.
And we're going to be talking pro wrestling at a wedding. It's unlike any pro wrestling podcast out there, because not only do we make you feel like you're at a wrestling show every week, this week we're taking you to the reception. You're going to feel all the love. It's going to be like Macho Man and Elizabeth times 1,000.
And we know what wrestling weddings are like, and
Yes.
this one will not disappoint, I promise you that.
I'm bringing a snake. It's the wedding of the century. We're going to be talking Monday Night Raw, the AEW TV deal. Can't wait to hear Triple J's thoughts on that. Plus, will Moose the Mark show up out of nowhere? You'll have to listen and find out. Brainiacs Brainbuster Radio on any podcast gimmick out there. Subscribe today and join the most exciting pro wrestling podcast out there today.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star.
And now, let's get into some of the news of the week. Big news. The final head coach is hired, and oh my goodness, it was an interesting one, especially if you follow the CFL like I do. It's the cover 2.
Going for 2. Go for 2 and the lead.
June Jones, the 8th and final hire to be a head coach, general manager in the XFL, will take over the Houston XFL franchise, leaving the Hamilton Tiger Cats as the offensive coordinator there to take the job. 66-year-old, been all over the place, former NFL head coach, former college football head coach, Division I with SMU in Hawaii. He is renowned for his offensive mind, and he is our final head coach general manager in the league. Vince, your initial reaction to this last spot taken by June Jones?
I love it. I am a huge June Jones fan. This guy, he very successful, University of Hawaii, and then he also went to SMU. He brought them back from the grave. They hadn't done anything in a very long time.
Since Ron Meyer.
Yeah.
Scandal.
And what was that? Bobby Collins or something like that after that. But he finally took over for them in the 2010-ish range. And, he got him a bowl victory. I mean, this was something that this program hadn't seen in quite some time. Very innovative offensive schemes from this gentleman. Excellent coach. I like this guy. A great student of the game, I would say. He is really an X's and O's person. And I think that's the kind of stuff that is going to excel in the XFL with whatever sort of rules we come up with, a fast-paced style. That's what this guy can do, and I'm very excited to see it.
Yeah, and when you say student of the game, he is, because he's traveled so much as a coach. He is kind of a vagabond coach, been all over, done it all, been in the USFL as a position coach, NFL, went up to the CFL, not really knowing the game as well as some of the other, longer tenured coaches there, and, came around and turned that Tiger Cats team around offensively, and he leaves that situation. That's the really interesting thing to me, is all the CFL coaches that have come to the XFL with really good resumes jumping ship from a pretty sturdy ship in the CFL. They just, again, avoided a stoppage. Their CBA's back for 3 more years. The CFL is fine. It's actually expanding, but coaches there, American coaches at least, looking for opportunities at home, and this was a big one for June Jones.
Yeah, I will agree with that also. I don't have the stats about this individual like some of the guys do, but I think the most important thing is that he's basically leaving the number 2 position of a CFL club to come be, the head man in charge for the XFL. So, CFL, nothing to scoff at. I understand he was not the head coach, but this was, you'd have to say a systematic target at someone that you want, and they lured him away from another profitable league to come to the XFL.
Well, it's not even a profitable; it's a secure league, right? The CFL has been around 100 and.
You're right. Yeah, how many Grey Cups have there been?
There's 100 and I'm going to say 108. I don't know. I'm guessing
Over 100.
I'll admittedly only been watching it for an entire season. This is my 3rd season going into it. Yes.
So to leave that secure job is probably the most important thing and the most impressive thing by the XFL and being able to pull this man. We talked about how they pulled a scout from, was it the Buffalo Bills a couple weeks ago? Yeah. What was his name, Alan? Do you remember? The scout from the Buffalo Bills that they pulled.
Oh, that to work with the league.
Yeah.
He formerly worked under Doug Whaley. Yeah. Name escapes me.
Yeah, so we talked about how they actually pulled somebody from the NFL. That was their first ever real live pull. This is just as big in terms of head coach, or former head coach of the NFL, now offensive coordinator. Well, was the offensive coordinator for CFL, and now the head coach.
Well, you say, I'll even go back one more. Pulling Bob Stoops out of retirement, to me, is still the biggest thing that I
They probably said name your price.
So let's talk about that because we're on.
Hold on, Alan. We're not ranking them. If that's
no,
where you're going. Okay,
that'll be for the Patreon. We'll do our rankings show of all 8 head coaches. 107th Grey Cup we're going into, by the way. But okay, we have all 8 head coach general managers now. Of all the 8 hires and all the 8 press conferences and these 8 instances of big news for the league. What stands out the most to you? Is it Bob Stoops still, Vince?
To me, that's the most shocking. We'll see how he does in this sort of environment, but that's the most surprising. But June Jones may be the one I'm most excited about, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I like the a lot of offensive-minded coaches in this with Trestman and June Jones,
which is the kind of
Bob Stoops is bringing on his offensive coordinator. We're going to talk about in a moment too.
That's the kind of types of coaches that we targeted leading up all last year, early parts of this year, talking about guys that are going to be innovative and want to reimagine the game. Because that's what this league's all about. Reimagining the game of football, good, crisp football, quality of the play. That's what it's all about, and that's what these guys can do.
Alan, a lot of talk was made about Pep, right, and how this was possibly a favor to Pep because of Oliver Luck in their history. But in reality, he fits the mold perfectly. I think Pep Hamilton leaving Michigan, right, and getting to the XFL shouldn't be overlooked as another type of coach that left something that was more solid than the XFL is in this current state, and they're going to go take a chance to be a head coach in the XFL. I think Pep, to me, was something that people thought would be a minor move and actually turned out to be a pretty major move.
Yeah, we should remember that none of these head coaches were sitting at home begging for jobs. Coach Stoops was sitting at home, probably counting his money, and they got him back on the field.
You're right. It's to me, that is the thing that stands out the most is offensive minds all over the place for these hires. You've got Pep, Bob Stoops, Trestman, Hayes. It's just everybody's coming in with different and unique offensive minds to help, hopefully create a league that's going to have high scoring and a lot of excitement in under 3 hours.
245.
245.
That's the sweet spot right there.
That's the sweet spot. But you don't have any Mike Singletaries in this league, who are, kicking field goals left and right.
But winning games.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not Mike Singletary.
I don't know.
And that may also maybe kind of signifies, okay, now I know why Jim Haslett's not in this league. I think that now I understand that.
Yeah, but in a case like a Jim Haslett, this was a guy that was an NFL head coach for a good amount of time. He's not. I don't know this for sure, but I can't imagine that he's hurting for money, hurting for opportunity. These guys, I'm not saying they're hurting for money either. The people that are taking, I think they took it because they legitimately want to be involved. But they're also, this is their kind of league. Jim Haslett, he's more of an NFL coach.
What's the opportunity, right? The opportunity that all these coaches are getting. Bob Stoops, this is his first opportunity at head coaching a professional paid league. Legally paid, we'll say that. And Pep, all these coaches have been begging for this chance, and now they're getting it, and that's why it's going to be very interesting, very exciting, because these coaches are going to be in it for the long haul.
But we're going to go rank these guys, and we're going to really dive into them for a special episode for sure on the Patreon. But look at the 8 guys, and there is one guy who stands out. So Hayes was an offensive assistant. Zorn, head coach but offensive guy. You got Stoops, who he's a head coach but offensive, great offenses. You've got you bring in June Jones, Trestman, Pep, Gilbride, and the one that stands out is Winston Moss, the only guy brought in who was a defensive coach, linebackers coach, and assistant head coach with the Green Bay Packers. He also stands out like a sore thumb, which will be interesting to see.
So if you're
got the best coach, I'm sorry.
He is the biggest. Is it any coincidence the defensive guy is the biggest personality of them
if
all?
You're handicapping this, do you go against the grain and go with the more of the defensive team here? They may not be favored a lot going early on, but I sense a lot of backdoor covers coming in from the LA team.
Well, this is not a developmental league, right? This is what the AAF did. the Birmingham Iron were shutting people down now. I'm telling you, there was some sort of conspiracy where they said, stop shutting people down. We need these players to develop. This LA team is going to shut people down. I guarantee you they're not going to get something.
Well, it depends on the players. And
we're the best team, Vince. Don't you know this already?
It depends on who they get. And, of course, the summer showcases are coming up that we're going to talk about. But, wow, 8 coaches, 8 unique offenses, 1 defensive-minded guy. This is going to be really fun. The XFL definitely did a good job, I think, just on the surface. The 8 names we see out there, with June Jones as the last one. Home runs all over the place, good variety, also personalities and experience. And now it's on to the players, which is going to be really fun. But we do have some other notes, coaching-wise and front office-wise. Let's go to Dallas, because they had a couple of hires this week we need to talk about. Daryl Moose Johnston, the former Dallas Cowboys fullback, former Fox television analyst, and most recently, Jake, the general manager of the AAF's San Antonio Commanders. If you ask me, he was going to be the GM to win that championship, maybe. If Steve Spurrier, had a bad game. But he was, doing well with the AAF. That league folds. Here he comes in, director of player personnel for Dallas. How does that position, this position that we didn't really know about until this week, differ from what the general manager is going to do, or differ from what Optimum Scouting is going to do for the league? Vince, what do you think? This is going to be
I don't know if
an assistant GM type role, or
that's what it sounds like. I don't know if it's going to be, once the league gets up and running, this guy's going to scour, the earth for replacement players if guys leave or something. I don't know.
That front office for Dallas is star-studded. Names we recognize, but also it makes for an interesting draft. I think we're going to get once these summer sessions are done. Now the general managers have people to bounce ideas off of and work with in the scouting.
Yeah, it's good to have more good people involved. There's nothing wrong with that, but you also got to pay these people too.
Yeah, that's the thing I'm wondering.
Is it an unnecessary? If it's an unnecessary position, why are you paying for something?
Well, you have a director of player personnel for the league, right? That's Eric Galco. He's the director of player personnel, right? That's his title, right? So now you have individual team directors of player personnel. So Eric Galco is going to go out there, probably share information with the entire league, say, here are the pool of players, you guys make these decisions, you make these choices. Now you have these individual teams that need, because remember, there's a competitiveness to this, right? They can't all just share all their information. These team directors of player personnel are going to be focused on their team, they're going to share information with themselves and not with the LA team.
Isn't the coach also the general manager, though?
And they have
a coach. He can make the decisions, but you're going to have someone to look towards to say, hey, how is this player doing? What do you actually think of this player? Rather than just what. And Eric Galco and the team at Optimum Scouting is great. Don't get me wrong, right? We're not questioning that. But as a team, you're going to want to have information internally for yourself. And that's where I think the Bob Stoopses of the world are going to go to these directors of player personnel and say, hey, what do you think about this player?
Yeah, Vince, a war room can't just be Bob Stoops or these head coaches by themselves in there. They got to have people to bounce ideas off of.
That's right, yeah. I mean, I can see, this is a guy that's going to be working with the head coach, I guess.
Now, do we think, is every club required to have this position, or is this something that Dallas or Coach Stoops decided that they need this position and they're going to fill it? Do we know that?
We don't. That's this.
So is that the discretion of the club, would think right now?
I'm betting we're going to see this role get filled on the 7 other teams.
So, yeah.
But we didn't know anything about this coming, and for it to be such, a big name, too. In Moose Johnston, it's very interesting, and also he's it feels like an assistant type of role compared to what he was doing in San Antonio. So that's also interesting to think about him maybe taking a step down in terms of the amount of control he has over a club.
But is he really? Because you remember the AAF, they were localized, right? You had your players.
So many rules, so many rules,
right? So you couldn't select any player you want. Here, there is no restrictions. There's no geographical restrictions for a team. You're going to be able to pick who you want, not who you want, but who you think is the best.
Are you sure about that? Because there were people from the East Coast playing on the San Diego team.
No, there was, but there was an original draft. The players were put on teams based on geographical proximity. But then if you passed on a player like John Manziel, because John Manziel was a San Antonio player, right? If I'm not mistaken, and he was passed on, and then he went into the waivers wire. Mm-hmm. That's how he ended up with Memphis. So it was a process.
Yeah, this is a interesting development because we didn't know that this would be a role that the XFL would have on the teams, and we don't know any of the financials behind what Moose Johnston's getting and exactly what he'll be doing for Stoops, but powerhouse there in Dallas with big name guys running that team, putting it together. So do you think Vegas already is planning on making them the favorites just because?
I don't know.
I would say if you go by name value.
I'm hoping we could get some people from Vegas on the show.
Yes, I know you've been pushing me hard. We got to get players first, and then we can start talking from the Vegas perspective. But Dallas, we'll stay with their perspective because not only did they hire Moose Johnston this week as director of player personnel, they also hired a legendary coach to be their offensive coordinator, Hal Mumme. Joining Bob Stoops in Dallas. He is, Vince, the inventor or innovator, I guess you would say, of the air raid offense. And in case our listeners don't exactly know what the air raid offense is, Vince will explain it to you because it is some of the most exciting football that you see in college football, at least these days.
Yeah, and even a lot of stuff in the NFL, too.
It's leaked in.
Yeah, it's a lot of spread, hurry-up concepts there. We're talking... probably at least four wide receivers at all times, rarely using a tight end, probably a scat running back in there, wide spreads on the offensive line, no huddle, not subbing very often, quick throws, getting the ball out quickly, played within the first 20 yards, as opposed to a run and shoot type system where you're bombing it down the field. They're really spreading the ball around here, making defenses defend sideline to sideline. This is something that you see, like you said, Alan, used in college football all the time. So tough to defend, to get your athletes on defense to cover these guys for 60 minutes all over the field.
And I love that, Moose Johnston comes on as the director of player personnel, and then this is a team that will never use a fullback. Ever.
Or even run straight ahead, maybe.
Yeah. Hal Mumme, though, is, part of this incredible coaching tree that involves, him, Bob Stoops, Mike Leach up at Washington State, formerly Texas Tech.
And OU.
And they were together. He was at Kentucky. When they're the guys that, where they started putting that offense together in UK. Yeah. And Tim Couch ends up becoming a first overall pick because they made him look like $1 million way long ago. Hal Mumme is, so well respected in the coaching ranks, and he is bringing the exact type of mentality that the XFL wants when it comes to the offenses in this league. So a huge hire there by Bob Stoops, who, is he really even going to have to do anything? He still could probably play as much golf as he was, Jake. He's got an offensive genius, and he's got a good GM type to help him out here.
Well, some were going to say that about Steve Spurrier, and look, they finished with the best record, in that league.
A true CEO.
While it existed, at least. So I don't think he's just going to be, a statue out there or anything.
He's got to make the decisions. Bob Stoops, trust me, I couldn't coach this team to success even if I had these players. Bob Stoops is going to have a lot of input. To have this type of offense as a possibility, though, just gives the XFL more options. They're going to have this passing offense now in Dallas, it seems like. Who knows what kind of offense they're going to have all over the league. You're going to see so many different varieties of types of football in the XFL that it's just going to lead to excitement to more eyes, hopefully, and that's what the XFL needs.
The cool thing is that we are really getting into the competitive aspect of the league now. Like, these are coaches who are making decisions that they're hoping will give them a leg up on the other coaches. You see Mark Trestman making hires, bringing CFL people that he's comfortable with to come work with him in Tampa. And you see Bob Stoops bringing in good minds and friends and people he knows that are going to be successful and know what they're doing. So it's on now. The competition has begun already.
These are not PR moves.
No.
These guys are out there to win now.
Yeah, these are guys that have been innovative in their careers, and they're going to have a chance to be innovative again as we reimagine the game here. We still got to... I can't stress this enough. The rules are going to be different. We know some of the things that they're looking at, but nothing's set in stone yet. I cannot wait to see these rules written down on paper, and then we could see how these coaches are going to adapt their systems to fit these roles, and not just make it an exciting game, but to exploit the other team. That's what it's going to be all about. I think coaching is going to be so critical in this game as far as who's going to win and lose.
It's just crazy how all these hires are happening. Jim Zorn's Rolodex must be getting much smaller.
He's throwing
out the cards as you go.
Do you think he had Mummy on speed dial?
No, he doesn't have anything on speed dial. It's under M. He has
an actual Rolodex.
No, but these coaches, they're flying off the shelves. Honestly, there's not a lot of selection out there for the XFL, but they're picking up everything that they can. And if their player personnel is actually just as good as how they're finding all these coaches, I mean, the XFL is setting themselves up for a great tournament.
They're rating the CFL ranks already, and we'll see what other people jump from. Who knows? The NFL, the CFL, the college ranks. CFL is so close to their training camps. To see a name like June Jones leave, Hamilton Tiger Cats kind of were anticipating that, though. If you follow the CFL, they had his guy in waiting already, so they kind of aren't worried about this, I don't think. But, the XFL is on the scene, and they are really, luring in some really, really impressive football people. Hal Mummy, another one that people are super excited about. And, last bit here in our cover two, front office, we'll go to Houston again. They hired their president, Brian Michael Cooper, who he's an attorney, former sports executive, and he'll be taking over the Houston franchise. It leaves 3 presidents, I believe, for us.
Tampa,
St. Louis,
Houston.
LA.
No, Dallas.
LA. We got our LA, and we need a Dallas president.
Yeah.
Which might end up just being Bob Stoops at this point. I'm going to say we'll see what happens there. But more roles being filled in the front offices, and that that's going to mean once those are all filled, it's all about the players. Players only this fall. That's what it's about.
That's interesting. We have to have a side conversation maybe later this week exclusively on Patreon, Alan. What's next for the XFL? Is it players? Is it the rule book? What do we want to see next?
Well, we got rule book in June. And then it's players only until February.
I'm more interested in the rule book than the players.
I think they're going to hold that rule book as long as possible, or not let it all, or they may complete it, but not let it all out.
Maybe like chapter 1 in June.
Chapter 1.
We'll get the preface.
Well, I'm definitely going to get
mission
it.
statement.
I don't want it just in a PDF. I'm going to get it bound and put on my mantle. Is what I'm going to do.
You want it mailed to you?
Yeah, I might just have to go to Kinko's myself when that thing comes out. If you don't know about our Patreon, everybody, we do so much extra content there, and on a weekly basis, it's something different, it's something fun, and also we're covering not just the XFL, but we talk CFL, NFL, college football, all of it, and yes, I said CFL first, Brian.
Alan, because you talk CFL, we talk football.
You're going to be talking CFL pretty soon, too. The games start in, less than a month. And, we cover it all, but of course, all the XFL coverage that we do there, bonus shows like our exciting ranking of the XFL head coaches that I've been waiting for months, extensive breakdowns of the TV deal we did there, and yes, we have merch, too, that you can get by becoming a patron on our Patreon.
And don't forget, Alan, you can be on this very show right now. Hear your own voice. Go over to our Patreon. That's patreon.com/This Is the XFL Show.
Yeah, I love it. We get to talk to the fans directly. Our great patrons who give to the show help us do the regular show, but so much more. We do offer you opportunities to be heard and be a part of it and voice your opinion, join us, and it's really interactive too. So check it out if you have not yet. It's the XFL in a way that you're not going to experience anywhere else. This is the XFL Show on Patreon. All right, let's get into it, though, and let's talk about the players, because we know when they'll be showcasing their talents for these coaches and player personnel people. The dates are set. The summer showcase is upon us, and we are marking our calendars because we're going to be busy, Brian. We've got to get to these their combines and cover them, because they're going to be huge for the league, and they're the subject of this week's Hot Read.
Blue 58! Blue 58! Go! Hey, Ric Flair! Ric Flair!
Pepper, Flip, Caliber. Motown, Happy, Jolly, Drunk, Buster, Boomer, Tiger. I think he's got a hound too, Rodney, I think.
B-19! B-19 is fucking!
Hey, Seattle! Ryan! Mars 83!
Summer showcases, in case you don't know what those are, we had Doug Whaley on, and he described to us they will be like the Combine, but not Underwear Olympics. These are going to be XFL tryouts, invite only though, and the details have come out on what types of players will be at these events, how many of them there will be, what dates they'll be, where the locations will be as well, and we're looking at approximately 100 players at this each summer showcase event. So we've got 8 of them, and they're gonna be invited to these things through their agents. These are going to be players with representation mostly already, and we're going to see a combine of sorts where we're going to see football drills, Jake, and I know this stood out to you, verified measurements.
Yes, yeah, you're right. I mean, they're not going to be sitting down and taking written tests here, or running through certain types of obstacle courses. You're going to be looking at strength, speed, and sure, football intelligence, but I don't think anything on paper. So you're right. You're looking at probably about 1,000 invites you're going to have that you're looking to fill your team. If you take at least 100 people per the 8 cities.
Is it going to be more than 100? Is it limited to 100?
It's approximately 100.
Well, that's interesting because you're gonna have 8 tryouts, 100 people at each one, right? So that tells you that roughly 40% of the people invited to these things are going to be playing in the league.
Most likely.
Is that what that means?
I mean, there's a good chance.
Hopefully, I think that's the way the league sees it.
And I anticipate a lot of these players being, at least, for now, because we're looking at, the next couple of months, these showcases are happening. A lot of the players that the XFL wants are going to be on that NFL teams still before they get cut. So the players that are going to get invited to these things are going to be guys who are at the spring league and who are who are in the AAF possibly. Do you think, or who maybe are going to say maybe I'll leave the CFL? Those kind of guys.
Do you think they should have waited until after August?
Absolutely not.
You can't.
I don't think there's enough time.
This is a different kind of tryout. This isn't for maybe those elite players that they're going to give the big, upper tier contracts to, but this is going to be for a lot of the.
You're not going to get your tier 1 player out of this.
I mean, you could find a tier 1 caliber player where they're actually paying.
Would not be surprised at all if the MVP of the XFL is at one of these showcases.
Well, I mean, Alan, if you keep making that claim, eventually you're going to be right with that one.
Chad Kelly might be at one of these.
No, I think the most interesting thing about this, well, not the most, but one of the very interesting things about this is that they're having these quote-unquote tryouts in the local markets, in the actual, around the facilities of where they're actually going to be playing these games. The LA market, the Seattle market, all these areas are now going to have a chance to bring in fans. Make these public. Open to the public.
Okay, now
I don't know about that.
No, you really want to. Hold on one second, Jake, because you want these to be open. You want fans to be engaged with your product. When I went last summer to the AAF's open tryout, it was a complete disaster. I couldn't see anything. I couldn't do anything. They weren't involving the community.
You do, but you don't want to make a farce out of it. Also.
It's not a farce. You have players with agents. These are players that can play. It's not like you're having somebody show up in their boxers.
Completely open, you may have people showing up.
But they're not open. They are. No,
I know, but I thought you were saying you wanted to make them open.
No, the tryouts are closed. I'm saying make these open to the public for viewing.
The more hoi polloi you invite to this stuff, the more you run the risk, I think, of people falsely posting, this thing sucks.
Representing yourself.
You're one used to be a dog and pony show.
Well, I'm sure media will be there, and we're hoping to be there because we know the dates, we know the locations. And June 7th will be the first one. We've got Dallas at Maverick Stadium. Then on June 8th, Houston, TD-ECU Stadium, the home of the Houston XFL team, will be the second tryout or second showcase. New York, June 14th. I'm hoping to go Sprague Field. Washington, D.C., June 15th at the St. James Complex. L.A., June 21st, Veterans Memorial Stadium. Seattle, June 22nd at Memorial Stadium. Tampa Bay, June 29th at Raymond James Stadium, home of the Tampa Bay team. And St. Louis, the last one on July 13th, Lou Fuzz Training Facility at 1 Rams Way. They better change the name of that street. All right.
Now,
why? I don't understand why you'd want to change that. That's the one I want to go to. By the way,
we've got the eight locations, dates, and cities all lined up there.
now, how are they going to do this? Like at Dallas, certainly they're not just going to lock this off to Bob Stoops.
Oh, no,
right?
no,
You're
no,
gonna.
no.
I wonder, are all 8 coaches going to be
Yes.
there, or is this something
imagine they are.
that a director of player personnel, this new hire, is that something that perhaps this would be his major responsibility while the coaches work on?
I'd imagine
other
it's going to be all hands on deck here
I
to
would
see,
assume.
what these guys are made of, and who we want to be in this league.
So they are just inviting regional players, we would assume.
I don't think they're inviting regional players either. I think they're having these tryouts in the markets because they want the exposure. But anybody from
But
anywhere
I mean,
can
you
come
wouldn't
and
bring
watch
anybody from Sacramento
Why not?
to
Seattle. Or,
Why couldn't you
or
bring them to
LA?
Seattle? Because
well, no, that's okay. They're up there. But
okay,
I'm
why
saying
don't you bring them to DC? If you don't have room in Seattle or in LA, why not bring him to DC? If you think he can play, bring him to DC so that way he can
I
get
just
exposure.
think there would be room in LA or Seattle for that.
I just don't think this is team centric. Yeah, they're putting it in the markets, but definitely I fully expect the coaches for all 8 teams to be at every single one of these to get as much exposure for these players
I think
as
it's
possible.
that. It's probably also for local media to come cover it.
it has to be. It has
if
to be
not
for
fans, it's definitely local media.
If it wasn't for local media or to get a buzz into town, they would just have these at neutral offsite places.
Well, the XFL has even sent out to agents the reasoning behind the summer showcase, what exactly is going to be going down for their clients, what kind of players will be there as well, so it can give you guys those details to clarify it a little bit more. But you're going to be seeing invite-only workouts for players who are going to be considered potential XFL players by the player personnel people at the XFL currently. And those players will be players who have played in the NFL or alternate football leagues, aka AAF players looking for jobs, or players who have recently completed their college eligibility. And you're going to be seeing, like you said, Jake, verified measurements, but also like combine, like athletic testing. Not, underwear Olympics. We will see some 40-yard dashes, though. But we're going to see cool stuff like positional workouts that and team workouts that you might not see at a traditional NFL combine. There'll also be, the interview process, background information for the league to really know who these players are. And it's going to really develop the player pool for all the coaches to select from throughout these summer showcases, because that's how you're going to win as a coach or player personnel person in this league. Is you're going to analyze these summer showcases and fill out your team with quality players that are here. The superstars that the XFL gets, the bigger names, the guys who are going to get paid the most, are going to be important, but it's how you win football games.
Do you think this is the point at this very moment, the very first one on June 7th in where's that one, Alan?
Dallas.
At that point, do you think the coaches stop sharing information with themselves, with each other, and the competition starts? Do you think that's when it happens?
Oh, I think it already has started.
I was going to say, I think it happened already.
It's already.
If you see a player that you think is going to be great that everybody's dismissing, you're not sharing that with anybody.
Oh, yeah.
You're planning on something.
You don't have to lead them astray, but that's just something you don't say.
Yeah, the gamesmanship has already begun. The competition.
You know what happens
here
with LA? That's great. He's not going to share anything with anyone.
Winston Moss.
There could be a fight.
If Winston Moss hears that Jonathan Hayes is looking at one of his players, we might see a fist fight at one of these showcases. But this is going to be cool. We're going to hopefully be there, Brian. I'm hoping I can make it to New York or DC or both.
I'm planning on the Los Angeles one, looking at other opportunities for the other ones, because I feel like this is the first chance for more exposure, because really they've only had the coach press conferences, right? That's all that's ever been in the local markets.
In local markets, yeah, because the teams, they were just all in New York.
Yeah, we'll find out. Right now we don't know if these are going to be open to the public for viewing, and I don't know. It is an underwear Olympics, but it's still not a football game. I don't know what kind of draw that would be to get people in the stands.
Maybe it's going to be a 7-on-7 game.
Oh, jeez, here we go.
I don't know about that, Vince, but we'll see. We'll see how much access we get. We're hoping we can get our feet on the ground there at some of these events and get some interviews and some insight into what's going on with the XFL as they develop their player pool. Also included in the summer showcase emails and notices that have been sent out by the league. More on the kind of players that are going to be there. Street free agents, as they're called.
/AAF
yeah,
players.
2019 draft class players, so undrafted rookies, maybe some undrafted rookie free agents who are going to say, I'm not even going to try to make this NFL team because I know I won't. I'm going to go to the XFL. But you don't know.
Vince, do you know how many players are invited to the Combine every year? It's. I know it's more than the 254 that get drafted, but...
Yeah, I don't know the exact number, but it's...
Maybe we have to look that up.
It's a fair amount. I mean, you're probably... I mean, you're talking...
More than 800, or you're talking less?
No,
I would think it's less than that.
It's less than 800.
But you're talking about a difference of 150, let's just put it out there, of players that were invited to the Combine that didn't get drafted, that maybe 75. So, 75 players that were at the Combine might be at this as well.
And there are NFL players, current NFL players from that pool.
I don't know if I'd say that, because I would say everybody that was at the Combine was signed to an NFL team.
Or the vast majority of them.
I would say probably all.
If not all.
Unless they underperformed at the Combine.
Well, even if you underperformed at the Combine and not drafted,
some of those players might be eligible to go to these showcases. Their camps aren't going to be going on yet.
I wonder how that works. Yeah, if you're signed some sort of contract to try out in an NFL training camp for a particular club, are you allowed to try out for another club in the XFL?
Well, that would be an NFL restriction, because I don't think the XFL is going to restrict themselves to that.
Well, no, but I don't know if the NFL...
Well, a note the XFL sent out to agents here does say clients who are currently on an NFL roster who would like to consider playing in the XFL. So
that's another tier of players that they're looking for.
Yeah, that's still going to be at the NFL's discretion.
If available, it does say there. So there might be some available current...
That's the XFL CYA right there. That's just saying, hey,
you got it.
If they're signed and they can play or they can sign with us, then yeah, sure, bring them. But
it's a very gray area.
An agent may be telling his client, hey, yes, I understand that you're signed to try out for the Rams right now, but odds are you're not going to make it. Would you like to go try out for the XFL instead? Yeah, they may say that.
So that's also one thing I'm going to have my eye on is keep an eye on
who shows up.
Yeah, and who's a current NFL training camp invitee. An undrafted, a UDFA, or just some veteran. We'll see if any of those people show up at the summer showcases. Cannot wait for the lists of the 100 players or so at each camp.
I think if you're going to one of these, you got to be really hanging out in the parking lot, looking to see what kind of limousines show up and who gets
Do you think that list is going to be made public?
I have a feeling we're going to know at least most of the players who are going to be at these showcases, and why not? Get us interested in the players that are going to be in this league. I think they definitely should be, and that information, I'm sure, if not made public by the league, will at least be made available by someone, agents, players themselves. And I have a feeling, like you said, the parking lot, it'd be just like the replacements in the beginning, and you're seeing the different personalities getting out of their cars. Who's going to be in this league? Sumo wrestlers, maybe? No, I don't know about that, but
I wouldn't rule it out.
Yeah, I mean, there's talent all over the world. The CFL's taking notice. I've been talking about that for weeks now.
There's a difference if you're driving in a Cadillac or you're driving in a Buick. We know that much.
So
nice now.
So the summer showcases, highlight of the summer for us, I think, other than the great summer read that will be the XFL rulebook.
Alan, you brought it up on This Is Not. Do you have the Alvan ready to go for the summer?
My Airstream.
Your Airstream, maybe? You're going to hook it up to the Honda?
I'm going to be the John Madden of the XFL. The bus is going all over to these summer showcases.
Do you think the kids will be able, for their required summer reading, they'll be able to cite the XFL rulebook as credits?
Yeah,
it's going to be lengthy, I think.
For a fall class, I analyzed the XFL rulebook.
You can get out of your PE class for the year if you write a report over the summer on the rulebook.
This is going to be one heck of a summer. If you're a fan, if you're a player, if you're media, if you're covering the XFL in any way, shape, or form, you don't have to wait until 2020 to be really active with the XFL. We have been for a year and a half now, and this summer showcases are just the first step of what's going to be a great summer.
Well, now and the competition really, like we said, has begun. And look at Dallas, all ahead of the curve. I think they have a personnel department together now, and None of the other teams really have that going on exactly, at least, formal titles to people like Moose Johnston. And this is it. This is gathering information on players is so important. And these staffs are going to be at these summer showcases doing work. They are working now. This is it for the front offices of each XFL team. They don't have very long to hire these kind of people if they're going to fill out, director of player personnel people like Dallas did. So as we're recording the show, it's the 17th of May, and where we said the first showcase is on June 7th. If you want to...
Was it 21 days or so about that?
Yeah, you got 3 weeks to put a front office together of personnel people.
Maybe they have them put together. It just hasn't been announced.
A formal announcement? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, that could be going on.
Everything we've seen from this league so far has been well planned out in advance. I don't expect this to be any different.
Do you think Moose Johnston was working with Bob Stoops?
We found them all.
The last week before the AAF ended? No, I don't know. But this is really fun. This is really fun because this is how the season will be won.
Alan, you don't yearn for the weeks back in March of 2018 when we were scoundering for XFL data on social media that didn't exist? You don't yearn for those days anymore?
No, I don't remember.
This isn't too much for you?
I don't even remember talking about the TV deal last week. I mean, this is a lot of news we went over today. And a lot of exciting news. I'm kind of also now I'm getting into like my rooting mode, and I feel like LA's behind the curve. Bryant, we need a director of player personnel.
We have the best coach. Period. What does it matter? We can do it all.
They may have one, and he's already doing his job.
Winston Moss
or her job.
Threatening other coaches.
You think Winston Moss is going to be... What was the coach from Waterboy that was just intimidating? Henry Winkler. Yeah, Red Boy. He's going to look across the field and just stare down his opponent, and that's it. There's no reason to even play the games.
Oh, man. Well, let us know what you think of the 8 coaching hires, because that's going to be our next really big Patreon episode, everybody. 724-565-4XFL. You're dying over here.
Winston Moss walking over to Bob Stoops. Now listen, Bob, I'm going to have this player right or something, or this is going to get awfully physical. But I don't think you want that.
Alan, so we're not having a poll this month. We're literally just going to do the 8 coaches ranked.
I think we've got to skip the poll, everybody. We know what they're going to vote. That you want us to rank the head coaching hires, analyze them all, and we're going to put them in a fancy order. It's going to be fun. It's going to be on the Patreon.
Okay, so we'll say that's the plan for now. But if you don't want that, let us know on social media at XFL Show. Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
All right, Jake. I think we covered it all, unless you want to get into more, verified measurements. How would you verify the measurement of this show?
I'd say it's probably like a...
Was it long enough? Was it just right?
Oh, I was going to say like a 9.2 is how I was going to rate it.
Is that out of 10?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
I didn't know if that was inches or what that was.
No. Do you have the Dallas team as winning right now?
No, I still can't pick that. I need team colors and logos. I'm still waiting for that.
My goal now is to get Jake to say that exact sentence every week, which he has done.
Pretty much, yeah.
Until they give us that.
There are a lot of people clamoring for that, and that's.
Is that next? Should that be next?
We've heard that is coming within the next month or two, I believe, or 2 months. So.
There's so much going on.
I can't.
Alan, I appreciate it. I just want to say thank you guys for being here. We got together to do this show on the eve of my wedding. So
yes.
Thank you, Jake. Thank you, Vince, for flying from Pittsburgh. Alan, you as well. It's going to be a great night, and thank you. So if we sound a little off, our apologies. Lots going on right now, but this show, I think, Jake, come on, give us like a little bit better than 9.2.
I'd say that was
9.2 is very
pretty solid.
Good.
Is that pretty solid?
9.6 on episode 69 of This Is the XFL Show for sure. Hey, everybody, thanks for listening. Of course, follow us at XFL Show. Subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Overcast, whatever you love to listen to shows on, we're there. And just hit that subscribe button and tell your friends. The XFL is kicking off in 2020, but it is being covered thoroughly each and every single day, and we're doing the best we can with it with your support. So We appreciate you, and we look forward to speaking with you next week, hopefully with a bunch more news that makes us forget everything we talked about this week.
Yeah, I hope so. Keep it coming. I love talking about something new every week.
Director of Player Personnel for Los Angeles, Michael Irvin. It could happen.
That'd be like an NFL team to do that. They're just stealing people from TV. I don't know about that. Or maybe stealing people from podcasts, Vince. I haven't heard from you for like a week. Were you on the phone with people at the league? Are you going to be taking over one of the DC front office or something?
I
wouldn't be surprised.
I was traveling. I was down in Tampa. In a few weeks, I'm going to be traveling over to Seattle. I'm in LA this week. I've been hitting a bunch of XFL cities with my ear to the ground. But I will remind all the listeners out there, you can hear me on Patreon.
Yes.
This is not the XFL show. This here's some of the great content produced by this here company.
Yep, he does talk all the other football there, and Vince is I guess kind of our director of player personnel on that show, at least.
And it's for a low price, too. How much do you got to pay to get on that tier?
You can start at $1.
No, not for this. Is not
This is not the XFL show. It's over there. You start at the fourth tier, which I believe is the $8 tier.
For $8 a month, you get to hear me talk on 4 shows a month. That's huge. What value?
Vince,
at least 4 shows.
Yeah.
At least 4 shows. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening, and we will talk to you next week. For Jake, for Bryant, getting married tomorrow. For Vince, I'm Alan. This is the XFL Show. Remember,
they're listening.